Kosher Wine Podcast with Dr. Kenneth Friedman and Rabbi Yisroel Bernath.
Hello, Kenny. I can't believe it. You're alive.
I'm all over the place. I'm an international traveler. Now, to be honest, I've just been, I guess, busy and lazy and a combination of things, but it's great to be back with you. We are still doing this. I'm still here, still there. We're continuing on. It's great to see you. How have you been?
Amazing. First of all, belated Mazel Tov to you and the beautiful marriage of your daughter. So you should have a lot of
Thank you.
nachas.
Amen. Amen. That was one of the things that was, I guess, kept me off the air, so to speak. But yeah, it's Baruch Hashem, doing great. It was amazing. My first time making a wedding, so that was it was a beautiful experience. I'm still very much on a high from it, and Mr. Hashem, look forward to future ones with my other children.
It's very
Should be in
special.
good time, and yours. And we, of
Amen.
course, missed you there. Of course, I wanted you there, but I know you were too busy.
I was definitely there in spirits.
I
I
know.
was making lots of l'chaims that night. I was trying to get there in person, and it was more complicated than I anticipated.
Well, you should know, and this is a very pat yourself on the back moment. Legendary lineup of wine. Legendary lineup. And I still have been meaning to like write that up to some degree. I had to blow it out of the water. And I did. Oh,
Really?
Shem. I don't know anything about anything else. That was my only job for the wedding. It was like put on a suit and take care of the wine. So I accomplished one of them, the wine.
Okay,
I put a
so
suit on up.
we want to
Yeah.
salivate. Give us some.
I'm going to save that. I'm going to save that because maybe we'll do that at a future one. And the reality is, it's been what 2.5 months. I don't even remember. But we had top bubblies also, which you should not be surprised about.
I
It
am
was great.
not
No,
surprised.
we had the obvious high end stuff, but it was also just great quality across the board. I mean, there was stuff like Jenny stuff like that, and there was the Isaiah Thomas wine. There was great wines, and it was Baruch Hashem. That's
Wow.
again, I had again. If I'm going to get one job, I'm going to do it right, and I had one job. My wife didn't ask anything else of me.
I will
It's
say,
just Chayil.
I think I sent you a picture that night.
Fine.
I opened a Rizio 18. That bubbly
Mm,
is
it's so good.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's so good. That's another thing that's been on my back burner for a long time is writing up my visit there and with the great Eli Ben Zakane, just with Simon. It was fantastic. A special, special thing. And my son, Baruch Hashem, who's back in yeshiva. What have you been up to the last few months? A lot of things. I see you're all over the place.
All over the place. So many really great wine events and yeah, drinking a lot of wine, definitely. And Rosh Hashanah is coming, which is
We
in the
should
near.
do Rosh Hashanah pit. That's not what I had in mind for this podcast, but we should do a Rosh Hashanah wine picks thing. We've done that before, right? It's one of the topics of what I wanted to talk about. It's a little bit interrelated. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I
I can
never
hear you
sat
great.
outside for one of these things,
Yeah.
except for our undisclosed location Pesach one where we were both sitting outside next to each other. I don't think I ever recorded outside again, but as long as you can hear me, I guess it's all right.
There
You
is
could
just
dub
this
in.
beautiful view behind you. So
Do you
I don't,
see? I don't even know what you can see. I can only see myself in the top corner of my phone, and I can't really see anything. But it looks pretty behind me.
there
It
is a
is undisclosed
blue-green halo.
location.
Yeah.
Undisclosed location once again. Baruch Hashem. All right, here's what I thought we would talk about. And I'm catching you off guard with this. Well, I'm not really catching you off guard. I mentioned it to you just today, and I think you were able to jot down some things too, I hope.
I did.
Okay. This is, I think, a fun topic. We're going to do wine myths. There's very common misunderstandings, and people have these rigid rules with wines. And I think, at least the ones I'm going to mention, I don't believe in. That to me, it's like I'm going to say it, fact or fiction. Fiction. That's why I'm bringing it up. I think these are all myths, and some of them people may say that's crazy. Like that you're just wrong, and that's fair. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Well, it's already melted, but I was going to start with the first one. No ice in wine. Fact or fiction? Would you ever put ice in wine?
Yeah, why not?
Right. Me too. I mean, I just did. And there's a couple of perfect examples. Where I am right now, it's very, very warm. I'm sitting out here and like it's very hard to maintain. Now, as we know, I don't think all wine has to be, especially white rosé. It doesn't have to be freezing cold, just the opposite. That's actually I'm dipping into one of my other ones, but it doesn't have to be. But, in a very, very warm day, you're drinking a nice crisp Sauvignon Blanc. The one I'm drinking is actually a little bit dated. It's a 23 Hagafen Sauv Blanc. Sauv Blanc. I dropped an ice cube in mine, and and not only do I not mind it, once it's sitting here for a little bit, and I've been out here for 15, 20 minutes, and it starts getting warm. Why suffer through a warm glass of wine? I don't want a warm glass of wine. So there's other ways to do it, whatever. And I understand that people say like the water content's going to mess up the wine. I wouldn't put it in some world class wine, but for just like a regular glass of wine, or if, like certainly if you're in the pool, whatever, why not? It's don't be crazy. Just enjoy the wine. That's the bottom line. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And I actually I would add to that myth, the myth of that white wine has to be served ice cold.
Right. That is one of my other ones, which we'll get to that and we can get to it right next. But
Yeah.
I'll give you yet another example. I'll give you another example, like a very fruit forward rosé, a heavier type of full bodied rosé, especially on a warm day like that. It almost it almost adds to I think it adds to it almost. It like softens it a little
Hmm.
bit, it chills it a little bit. I wouldn't do that to like a Provence type of rosé necessarily, but like a real heavy bodied rosé. You
Mm.
remember that first Essa rosé like a few years ago, and it was like real heavy and dark, and he changed the style after that. I think that's like an ideal thing. Like you get that with like a little ice cube, that's delicious.
Yeah.
That's delicious on a
I was,
summer day.
I was actually
But
thinking of
that
like those
but that
more
gets into the second one.
those
Go
Grenache,
ahead.
like those more full-bodied
Exactly.
rosés, they need a little bit of ice. I agree.
Exactly.
I would actually say probably preferred,
That
not
See,
just
now you're gonna get yourself in trouble.
yeah,
Now you're gonna
true.
get yourself in trouble.
Yeah, but
How
there's
about
because
a
in
how about
the
a wine 7-Eleven wine slushy? How about that?
I'm not going to say I haven't done. I have one. I bought myself a gift for Pesach, one of those Ninja slushy machines, and I have done.
Oh, did you?
Yes,
Josh London is always like talking about that thing. He's always talking about that thing. He's always they look great. Do you like it?
it's great for the
Yeah.
summer. It's great.
Yeah. See, I try not to like eat so much sugar anymore, but that's probably a killer for that. Like, what am I putting in there? I'm like blending celery. I mean, obviously you're gonna have something sweet in there. So that's like you dipped into, we'll come back to it. You go, give me one of your thoughts.
Okay. Um, Screw caps mean cheap wine.
Ah, well, I had that written down.
Oh, really?
I had that written down. Great one, by the way. Great one. That's a long bandied about topic. And I remember the guy that got maddest about that, and I hope he's still doing well. I haven't talked to him a long time, is Mark Starr, an Australian winemaker. He briefly made called Five, I forget the name of it. He made wine out of Australia. And that specifically where Australia, New Zealand, even more specifically, they only have screw caps in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And like I think there's a couple. Well, why don't you talk about it? Why don't you talk about what you think is like why do people think that that's cheap and why is it wrong?
Well, I think people think it's cheap because it has to have a cork. Now, there's a couple reasons why I think it may even be better. Number one, it eliminates cork taint. Number two
Exactly.
is it's probably better for the wine long term. Now, that's what's interesting to me is that I think long term, maybe people want that cork. But most wine, especially in the kosher world, and maybe I'm saying something bold, but most wine in the kosher world is made to drink now. And if you're drinking it now, I think a screw cap is much better.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's bold at all. I think it's like easily, it's not even like 90%, maybe 95 plus percent of wines are meant to drink now. Maybe like 98% of wines are meant to drink now. Um, I think you're exactly right. Cork taint is so brutal. When you sit on a bottle and you like a special bottle or something like that, and you open it and it's bad. And
Yeah.
the other side of that also has something to do with the screw cap to some degree, a little less so, but the idea that a lot of people outweight their wines, and it's a shame. And you let the wine die in your cellar. Now that's, I mean, less typical of a screw cap because yeah, they're not going to necessarily um, you're basically what you're doing is capturing the wine as it's made. It's not You're not getting that whole oxygenation process that you're going to go through with the cork in it. And we've discussed corks, including my favorite episode of the Cork Nerd episode, which probably no one listened to, but I loved it because I love all the nerdy aspects. So do you. Um, and of course, nowadays there are corks that have either you can just either eliminate cork taint or at least to change it, lessen it, that type of thing. And there's all kinds of different corks out there now. The traditional method of making corks, it's not the most common thing anymore. But the idea there also was that idea of the interplay between the outside of the bottle and the inside of the bottle.
Yeah.
And for these kind of bottles, and this would be a perfect example because this has a screw top on it, and they didn't used to do this, by the way. Hagafen, they started using screw caps on these wines. This is, not their pre, which is oaked and meant to age to some degree and whatever. This is meant to drink now, and they started using screw cap. Now, it is cheaper to do a screw cap, and I understand why wineries want to do it also. But you're delivering a product that's meant to be captured as it's made, right out, right into the bottle. It's not going to change. You're getting that exact moment of bottling. That's what you're going to taste, and that is it, right? So that is a perfect idea. But there is, and it's still, even for me, it's a little hard to get over. Like, you like to pop out that cork. There's something about that, right?
There is something about it. I'm not going to lie. There's something about
Yeah.
it. And I also know that I can often pop out that cork and it's corked. And that doesn't make me very happy. And I've never opened a screw cap and it was corked.
Right, exactly. So yeah, that's a perfect one. And but I do think that a lot of people will see it, and that's the myth, is that it just connotates that it's cheap, or it's not a worthy wine somehow, and that's absolute myth.
Yeah.
I think we gave every reason why. All right.
What do you got?
I'm looking at my list. Well, that was a good one. I wanted that one, but I'll let you have that one. But I also like the never add ice to wine because people get so mad about that. All right. Someone's actually calling. See, this is the problem when you're on your phone. Someone's actually like calling me right now. Now what? I hit that. Fine. Okay. Here's one I just thought of, like, as we were starting. And it's something I've seen in some of like the chat groups recently, people talking about and whatever. And it's always kind of bothered me. This, like, there's an elitism to wine. And part of it is that people are afraid to talk about wine without having the proper vocabulary for wine. And I think if I'm going to put it into a myth, it's that you need a proper wine vocabulary to talk about wine and to write tasting notes. And the myth in that, in my mind, is that it's the opposite. First of all, one of the best ways to learn is by diving in like that, by starting to talk about it, and by starting to write notes and to capture the things that you find interesting in a glass of wine. And you can't really do that unless you try to verbalize it. But you don't need so many of the ridiculous words that are used that, to me, are just interchangeable Mad Lib nonsense and mean nothing. When I write about wine, I try to make it more about the story of the wine, or the winemakers, or that kind of thing. Because me just saying, like, red currant, like, okay, what does that even mean to anyone? It doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can just go to you can say it's tart red fruit, good acid, that kind of thing. Fine. At least that gives a basis of what kind of wine it is to someone. I think when you start getting into all the vocabulary of what wine writers do, I think it makes it more elitist. It separates you from them. People are afraid to drink wine. I think it's part of why wine is suffering a little bit, is that sense of that. Like other things are just easy, and wine's hard. We've talked about that. People go into wine shops and like you're overwhelmed by it. And you never want to look dumb. You don't want to mispronounce a word. You don't want to. So that's why people are like, oh, I like cab. Cab. Everyone knows cab, but it's all part of that same idea. And like the myth to me is that you have to have the vocabulary and you have to be able to talk that talk to be able to talk to other people about it. And I think that's a myth. I think you should just dive in.
I really like that. I think it's important because it's true. Wine is somewhat untouchable for a lot of people, and they're afraid. And wine consumption as a whole is down. There was actually an article in the New York Times. I don't know if I can mention that publication here, but
New York slime is what we call it.
but it was the front page last week of the
Yeah.
Sunday edition where they said 30% of Pinot Noir vines in California are being burned because the
Yep.
wine consumption is so low, which I think, to me, if you are listening to this as a kosher wine consumer, you should be thinking, there's an opportunity here. But I'm not one to say that.
You mean that someone should an opportunity to buy into one of these places that are just don't have? Yeah, is that what you mean?
There's fine wine in California. If they're burning the vines, maybe there's something here to look at. I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
Don't look at me. I'm
I
not
know,
even
not
part
me
of any of
either. I'm just
that.
maybe someone's going to listen to this and say, "Hey, there's an opportunity," and you'll thank us later.
It's a tough world to make it in, the wine world, and that's yeah. But you're right, and there's a glut of wine. I think the other side of that, though, and you hear so much talk about that, and every wine publication you read, and you and I both read a lot of that stuff. It's like a lot of doom and gloom nowadays with like
Hmm.
wine's dying, and I don't think wine's going anywhere personally. Meaning, yeah, it could be kind of a natural reset a little bit, and maybe it's coming back a little bit. And there's always going to be things that have become more popular, less popular. Wine's not going anywhere, and I think maybe even a little more so in our world. I mean, a lot more
A
so. I mean,
lot
it's like
more
kind of
so in
like
our world.
yeah,
Yes.
it's structured into our world. So I don't think it's going anywhere. And I think and I may be wrong, and this is where you want to talk to guys that are in the business, but I think kosher wine is still growing. I mean, not just in terms of like seeing other regions and new wineries pop up and things of that nature, which absolutely is happening. I think that there's probably at least it's the volume hasn't dropped like what you're seeing in the non-kosher world.
Just think
And I
about
think that's because of
Yeah. Think about how much
say that
wine is available compared to when we started doing this. It's
crazy.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
think,
Now, but you even see
yeah.
I was going to say you even see the rise and fall within a few years of certain things. Like rosé got like crazy, and so many kosher rosés are made. Especially like you have like $80 to $100 rosés made and things like that. You're not going to see that anymore. I mean, at
Okay,
least not
well, I
now
don't
or
know about you,
immediately.
but
And then
I'm not crying over $80 rosés.
yeah, well, I only really believe in $10 to $20 rosé anyway. Um, Especially when you know how most of it is made, but that's not always the truth, and that's going to get people mad by even saying that. But for the most part, yeah, I think rosé should be an easy, economical drink. But yeah, so I think that's a good point, and I think our world has protected it from some degree, but it's definitely died back. The biggest reason, honestly, is you see it over and over is weed. It's like that's taken over so much of like what young people are doing because it's a lot cleaner
Yeah.
ultimately from a health. It's maybe not, but I'm saying in their mind at least it is. It's cleaner than alcohol is like tons of calories and like it's kind of messy. That stuff people can get their kicks to some degree. I'm not selling it. And all you kids listening, I'm not selling any of this. But I'm just saying the facts of what I read. And Stuff for Drugs, Rabbi Bernath. And the and but I think it's like that's part of it is that it's just kind of like a cleaner way to get where people want to get. And that's true to some degree. And that's also and that is meaning it's true to some degree that younger generations are looking for like kind of cleaner, healthier things, and wine isn't necessarily viewed as healthy. And I think they see that a lot, and with beer also is like that's why things like tequila, and the alcohol world has grown because it's looked at that way.
Right.
It's less calories, things of that nature. But we're getting off topic.
We are
Well,
getting
are
off
you up or
topic.
I'm up? I think
Let's
you're up. I think
I'm
you're up.
up. So since we hated on rosé, I'll do a myth on rosé. And then I think afterwards we should just do like a fire round, like just go back and forth. And so we can do a couple of these
Well, I don't
before
have that many. That's going to end quickly, but yeah, okay.
okay. I
I
wrote down
don't
like
have like
15,
20 things written down here.
I wrote down like 15.
No, you have a lot more than me. I have like 7 or 8.
Okay. So this one is so a lot of people think this is the myth. People think rosé is just red and white wine mixed together.
Okay. And
And
it's not.
it's not most of the time. A proper rosé means that they just stopped the fermentation process early, and that there was a brief contact between the red grape juice and the skins, and that's what made it rosé.
Right. Or they just take a early run and bleed off some of the wine off of the red wine. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. It's just winemaking processes when everybody not most typically. It does happen where they mix red and white wine together and make rosé. That's not never, but yeah, very, very much common as you're saying. So I think, do you think a lot of people think that though? I
Yes.
didn't realize that. I guess a lot of people do think that red and white make pink.
Yeah.
Right.
And I mean, a Provence rosé, which is there's some very fine rosés. I just had a Saint Marguerite Cru Classé. I mean, it's an unbelievable bottle of wine, whether rosé, white, or red. That bottle, I had it yesterday. It's a beautiful bottle of wine, and it definitely is not red and white mixed together.
Um, so I wrote down, and we touched on it before, that old wine always equates to better wine.
Mm.
So, and we touched on it before when I was saying like upwards of high 90% are meant to drink now. And that's the truth. Old wine for sure doesn't mean better wine. And besides that, the point that we touched on before, and we'll keep this one short, is that wine can go bad. Wine can go bad in your cellar. Wine that is meant to age can go bad, and all kind of things can go wrong. And one of the biggest crimes is outweighting a wine and letting it die in your cellar. But that's tough, and that's, I guess, the thing you can do I guess when you can afford to do it, which I can't, is like a wine you really like that is meant for aging. You just check in on them once in a while, and the Corvin is actually pretty good for that. I think. I mean, that's still
Hmm.
there's still a little bit of controversy, I guess, whether it doesn't affect the wine at all. Um, it's not totally known yet. I mean, I think there's definitely the idea that you can at least tap into your wine, and at least over a year or 2 years, you're fine. Maybe it'll speed it up a little bit. What it does, the Corvin, for those who don't know, it's a needle process that taps into your bottle of wine, pulls the wine out, and replaces it with argon gas, which is a neutral gas that won't affect the flavor and won't affect the oxygenation like oxygen would. So, but there are people that we know that says, well, it seems different. I don't, who knows? I mean, you need real research on that stuff, of course, but in any case, that old wine does not necessarily mean better wine. There are so many people text me those all the time. Like they have, they have like a 25-year-old bottle of a bad wine. I'm like, not only is that not going to be good now, and I would always say, like, of course, try it, whatever. You have nothing to lose. But not only is that not good now, it wasn't good 25 years ago. It wasn't even good to start with, and that wasn't meant to age. The one and a good topic of conversation for an entire podcast is how to know when you drink a bottle of wine whether it's an age-worthy wine. And if you're going to put it into like certain categories, you have to look at the alcohol, the tannins in it, the acidity and the sugar, and like that's gives you an idea, and it comes with experience, and that's when it's good to discuss with people that are well versed in these things. But most wines, the vast majority of wines, are not meant for that. So drink your wine when it's good. The interesting thing is even wines that a lot of us think are not ready, and I sometimes disagree with that assessment. People are like, it's not. I can't even drink it right now. I'm like, you can't drink it right now? What are you talking about? I can drink it. You'll hear winemakers. You ask them, if you ever ask them, like, how long should I sell? when's your wine gonna be ready? They're like, I wouldn't have bottled it unless I thought it was ready. Now, that's probably a lot of truth to that, but there is, of course, the truth of that they need to sell it. They're running a business and they need to be able to get back money for their investment.
Yeah.
But they're, most winemakers, with the exception of people that are probably in dire straits, don't want to put out a bad product. So they're not going to put out a wine that you really can't drink then. So I don't believe that to be the case either.
I was
Which actually,
surprised.
I guess, is the myth itself.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
think
that's
so.
one of the myths. Yeah.
I was
That you that
surprised. Yaakov Oreo was at my place a couple of months ago, and I pulled a 2017 out of my cellar, and he's like, "Yeah, that's probably dead."
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, and I was just amazed. He's like, "No, my wines are made to drink now. Like that's what I do. I'm not expecting that it's going to sit for 10 years and it's going to still be good.
Right.
Actually, this would be a great challenge. I would love this challenge if you and I can put together a list of wines that we think that are unavailable on the market right now that we think you can sell
Uh,
it for 20 years.
20 years.
20
I
years.
would say I would start with 5 years
Okay,
because that's not even that many.
n-
Um, 20 years. 20 years, you really kind of limit yourself to, and
yeah,
I hate to say this, you limit yourself to French
yeah.
and maybe some Italians nowadays, and
Yeah,
maybe
there's a
some Spanish
there's a
and some
few
Spanish, like the
Barolos, there's an
European ones.
Amarone on the market that I would go that far with, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying like I, and this is going to probably cause maybe some anger, and I do believe you not only can, but you should age some Israeli wine. So I don't want to be. I'm not that guy who says you can't Israeli wine, blah blah
We
blah.
must
But
do an episode on this. We must do an episode on
okay,
this. This will be
all
fun.
right. So we'll table that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. I like that idea. Um, what else? Okay, here's one. I don't know. I think you're up though. You go.
Okay, it doesn't matter. We can
Yeah.
so
Well, I'm trying to save the couple that I have. That's why.
okay, sure.
I'm going to run out, and you'll have like 10 left.
Here's my next myth. You need to let every wine breathe. Now,
That's a good one.
I have a very strong
Such a
opinion
good
on
one.
this.
Yeah.
I think that if you have to let it breathe, it was bad wine. Or it's not ready to drink. Let's say, okay, if you open up a 2022 Barolo, yeah, probably you have to let it breathe because it needs a couple more years on it. But generally, wines that you have to let breathe because anything with if you oxidize it for long enough, I mean, you'll lose the acidity and it'll probably be drinkable. So I just think that some wines improve with air, most wines don't. And actually, I would say,
I absolutely agree. I would put it a little differently in that I think like people always ask me, how long do I need to decant this wine? I'm like, why are you decanting the wine? Everyone assumes they have to decant every wine. That's like what you're saying. And that's the part of it. I absolutely like, yeah, it's a great one. I wish I had thought of that one because that always bothers me how people like it's a very common question. And a lot of times what they're doing is maybe like you're saying is actually ruining their wine by decanting it. What I like to do, and I tell people this is a good method, and it's one of those things also like aging wine that people just don't know how to do that, and that's a good topic also is like being able to taste the wine and knowing, yeah, this could use a little bit of air or decant or something like that, as opposed to. But what I like doing is like, Erev Shabbos, the bottle that I will use that night. You taste it, you have your little tayameha before Shabbos, and then like, is this going to improve by decanting it and leaving it till kiddush and whatever? And that's like that's usually the perfect amount of time. You go to shul, by the time you get back and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is. And a lot of times if a wine did need a decant, that's perfect time. And then you're ready to go. But never decant a wine without tasting it. Never, ever.
if you taste a wine and the alcohol is jumping down your throat, then probably it needs to be
Right.
decanted.
Right. Or tannins are brutal, or yeah, and that's only going to typically happen in a very young wine. Um, the where I see it almost always, and I'm like, I don't know why you're decanting it. Is people decant a lot of times very old wines, and then they let them sit for three hours, and I'm like, you're killing whatever was probably left in there, and by the time you
Yeah.
get to it, it's going to kind of be dissipate. And a perfect example of that was that the wine, the Gan Eden, the cave
Hmm.
wine, the famous mystery cave wine. I had a bunch of them over, those few years. So a lot of people like to pull wines like that out for, me to taste. And I always, it's always fun to taste because they're all different. And I would say of the ones I had, half were like the first sip was like very good, or half were like terrible.
Yeah.
And but even the ones that were very good, they fell apart pretty quickly. And that's a perfect example. Someone decants that wine and comes back 2 hours later, like you would have missed any enjoyment of that wine, any, because it was right away.
I would say those 98 Ganadins, you had 20 minutes on them, half an hour tops.
That's kind of what I found, and that's if they were good,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
That was a good one. Sweet wine only with dessert.
I like that. I should have thought of that one. That's
So,
a good one.
so, so first of all, and actually there was a different one that I thought of, and I didn't write it down. But sweet wine with dessert, I think, is kind of like everyone, and it goes to the same. And another one I didn't write down that I'm actually thinking of now, which we've talked about, and it's even, you know what? Forget the sweet wine with dessert. This is the one I want to do because this is my passion anyway. Bubbly only for celebrations. What are you doing? Drink it all the time. It's the most, it's if in fact, it's the opposite of like people always like have that thing of like, for instance, graduation or New Year's Eve, they pop the bubble, that type of thing, or a new job. I'm like, why is it only, and that's a nice thing, and it seems celebratory, but it's one of the most versatile wines there are, bubbly. You can pair it
Hmm.
with everything, almost everything at least, which is another thing I thought of is, by the way, the pairing thing I disagree with in general. Like I like to drink wine that you like. This is more rapid fire in my own mind, just saying things that are popping into my mind. But I'm going to stick with that one just for this one part is that I think bubbly, don't keep it just for celebratory events. Drink it more often. Drink it like for anything. It works with everything. It's the best.
That is
So
set
myth
from,
is that it's only for celebratory events.
that would be the one myth I would say that Kenny must have because the man of the bubbly.
I love it. What can I say? I
Okay,
love it.
here.
It actually, I think what it does is like people ask me, by the way, my phone said device overheating. I've never seen that happen. I should put it on ice. It's actually boiling hot. All right. Well, it's probably a good sign. We should probably like, we'll start chilling. If it just shuts off, you'll know why. Or if it just goes up in flames, my phone. Um, Yeah, I think I was going to say that I think with bubbly, people ask me, I give a little too much credit to a lot of bubblies where I'm like, I think they're probably better than they actually are. And like a lot of Prosecco is the case for me. I always like a Prosecco. I always like it. It almost doesn't matter how like how much quality is. I mean, some are better than others, but I will almost drink any Prosecco, almost any. And it's not a high quality thing. Prosecco is not intended to be. It's
Yeah.
made in a tank. It's not champagne, and that's just the point of it. It's just an enjoyable drink. And like
Oh, we lost him.
I'm gonna tell my
And you're back. You're back.
that was nuts, and my phone legit over here. By the way, I have it on an ice pack right now. That's how much I think about the people I'm keeping. I put my phone in the freezer for the last 10 minutes. I've never seen that happen, but it's hot. What can I say?
Wow, you
Um,
are where are
and
you,
also,
Death
I
Valley?
guess I was getting hot talking about bubbly wine, and I had my phone overheated. That's what it was.
Wow.
All right, let's do the rapid fire session. This is going to be on you because I think I'm out of mine, but let's hear.
Okay. The next one is here's a word that maybe will people don't know. The indent in the middle of the wine bottle is called the punt.
Right.
So the myth is the deeper the punt at the bottom of the bottle, the better the wine is. People have told me that recently. I've heard it from a few
Huh.
people. And I'm happy to tell you the indentation at the bottom of a wine bottle tells you virtually nothing about the quality of the wine.
Right. I wouldn't have thought of that myth though. I've never heard that indicates quality in any way. I've never heard anyone think that. It's funny you hear that. I never heard anyone
Yeah.
say that.
Okay, here's
Okay.
one that's going to
Is
be
it, and anyway,
controversial.
I actually don't know the pun. Is it to hold the bottle? Like I didn't know, or is it
Yeah,
to
wait,
rack it?
come
I
on.
can't, there's some,
You studied this, don't you remember that? There was a whole
no,
thing
I
on
don't.
this. I
I
think it's
don't.
in it's in two. You have to like properly hold the bottle.
I don't think that's ultimate. I think that's what it seems like. No, whatever. I don't want to sound any more stupid. So let's move to the next one.
Okay, here's one that may be controversial. Expensive wine always means better wine.
Right. Which we know is not the case.
Not always the case. We have found great bottles that are not expensive, that are
Here's a good
fantastic.
here's a good question for you on that topic. What do you think nowadays is kind of like the sweet spot for expecting quality without it being like, I would say, where's the beginning point to like expect quality in kosher wine, or what
Uh,
price range?
it's hard under $20. I think somewhere in the higher 20s, you can probably find something.
Right. Right. I say 25 to 35, I think. It's even getting hard under 25, I think now,
Yeah.
which
I
to
would,
me, I think is a problem. I think that's a problem in the kosher wine world. And I think that's why a lot of people are not buying as much wine also, is because you get so much more in their mind. People that don't really care, they think like, oh, I get more bang for my buck if I buy a bottle of whiskey. I'm gonna buy some $40 bottle of wine. It's like, a few glasses, it's gone. So I think we need better quality, and it always feels like it just continues to rise.
there's other reasons for
Okay,
it. The
what else?
shekel is really
Yeah,
high right now, so there's
yeah,
reasons for particular wines being higher at particular times. So we
I
can't.
know, but I always see, in Baltimore, the legendary Wasserman and Lemberger. They put out an ad in all the local publications in Baltimore, saying, like, basically apologizing, like prices are all going to go up. There's a fire in agri-processors, but like, and I don't blame them for any of that. And I think that's a nice move that they did, that trying to explain why it's going to be. They're not just like stealing your money, but you never see prices come down. Like,
Right.
they never actually come down.
That's a good point. So yeah, I
Well,
definitely
okay.
think there's room for a budget-friendly good wine. Uh, I I agree with that. Next one. Red wine must always be served at room temperature. I don't always think that's true. For example, where you are, I think Death Valley or wherever that is, uh,
I'm not in Death Valley. If anyone's looking, I'm not. Undisclosed. 100%. Room temperature, I wouldn't even say, a lot of times I would go further. And you're right, room temperature very often too warm for wine. Um, and that's when you're going to accentuate a lot of flaws a lot of times the wines. If the wine is like, alcoholic or whatever, that's going to make it a little worse.
right.
And it's, of course, as we've talked about before, I think we said that it's kind of the opposite with white wines. I would say the alternative also is that white wines always have to be chilled. That's a
Right,
big one too.
exactly. I just had the Puy Fumé Silex. That should not be chilled, in my opinion.
Right. You miss so much subtlety when you drink an ice cold white wine. And again, ice cold white wine is great for wines that don't need, like, where you don't need to bother with subtleties of wine. Silex is not a everyday wine. Um, but there's red wines where they actually, and a lot of people in the kosher world, there's not that many great examples of them. But there's a region in France, like Sommer, like
Hmm.
that's a place where wines really, or Beaujolais would be a good example. Beaujolais, you want to even like maybe chill the wine to some degree. Forget like even cellar temperature, chill down a little bit. That's a more fruity, fun wine, and it's gonna improve that way. Even you're gonna get a better experience that way. So it's like, yeah, that's a great one. Is that but room temperature, a lot of people do think
Yeah.
that, and a lot of people keep their wines at room temperature. They have it sitting in their dining room, or even worse, like I the
Above
biggest
their
kitchen
oven.
design flaw. Yes, it's like when I see that, I'm like, who designed your kitchen? I just want to go shake them. They're like, why would you ever put wine above an oven and a stove? It's like it's crazy, but I see that all the time in like fancy
All the
kitchens.
time.
It's some like bottle of like $300 Bordeaux like sitting roasting above your. Yeah, the wine tastes roasted. I'm like, yeah, it's roasted. All right.
I
All right. What
agree.
else?
A heavy bottle means a better bottle.
All right. Good one. Good one.
I mean, really?
Which also goes with the expensive thing. And what a heavy bottle is going to mean is a more expensive bottle. That's what it's
Yes.
going to mean. And that goes together with the expensive wine doesn't necessarily mean good wine either. Yeah, heavy
Was
bottle, we know that. I mean, I don't want to call out wineries, but it's funny. And I'll say this because it's a positive thing. I had the opposite experience. The truth is, I can't even remember the exact wine. Doesn't matter. But I had the opposite experience with the bottle was so verputzt. And I'm like, because I build up the opposite in my head. I'm like, it's fine. It's so verputzt. It's like, I'm not gonna like it. It's just like they're doing that thing where they're just trying to create this illusion that it's high end. And then they rarely are when they're like that, as you know. right? Some of the greatest wines in the world are in everyday bottles.
For
Oh,
our
and
Sephardic
the
brothers
end
and
of that story
sisters who
was
are
that it
listening,
actually, yeah, what? Who's
for our
listening?
Sephardic brothers and sisters who are listening, farputzt means overdone in a way that it's the Hermes effect.
That's good. Very good. Yeah, so but and that one actually was really good, but it's like I expect the opposite almost when I find these like, very heavy and like gold rims and that kind of stuff, like all these that kind of stuff. That stuff doesn't mean anything. It just means number one, someone's trying to sell a high-end bottle of wine, someone's trying to make it look like a high-end bottle of wine. But you're going to you do pay more for that because that stuff costs money. A heavier bottle is more expensive. Those thick glass bottles are expensive. So
Actually, it
you're going to pay them. You're going to pay the
yeah,
price for it,
in
and
the
it
in
has
the in
nothing
the
to do with
wine
the
world,
juice.
at large, two writers that I read a lot of. This is, in the wine world at large, Karen McNeil and Jancis Robinson. They both said that they are not going to be reviewing uh, wines that have bottles that are thick and heavy in those bottles, just to support not putting wines in heavier bottles, which is something that is important to them about, not wasting so much glass. Different conversation, not something maybe that's made its way into the Jewish world, but it's interesting that a lot of the wine writers are more conscious of that, and they both put out articles not long ago saying that they wouldn't be reviewing wines, that just to encourage wineries not to buy those large bottles.
Yeah, I mean, because at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with the juice inside. The only exception to that is really bubbly. Sometimes, like bubblies that are very high atmospheric, like they have the high pressure inside of it, the glass does have to be a little thicker.
Yeah.
That's the only example. But yeah, otherwise and you see that. Some of the best Bordeaux's in the world, they're not fancy bottles. They're just bottles. Look at Benyo. That guy, these bottles are just regular bottles, regular
Exactly.
Bordeaux bottles.
Right.
Okay. Anything,
Here's one.
anything left?
Here's one that's a little more inside baseball, but you can judge the wine by the quality of the viscosity on the glass. So the viscosity, otherwise known as the legs. But when you look at the
Right.
legs, you can judge how good the wine is just based on the legs. Uh,
Right.
I think legs largely tell you about alcohol. They tell you about sugar, about viscosity, not whether the wine is good.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think it even tells you less. I think and a lot of it just depends on the glass you're using or the temperature or anything. Doesn't really usually have anything to do with the wine, but yeah, maybe the alcohol. But yeah, not at all anything to do with anything else. And very much overrated term that people like to discuss. And I think it goes back to that same idea of like people want to sound like, it's like, but it's like, people are intimidated by wine, I think. And like, that's something that's easy to see, but I think that's like, you're picking the wrong thing. Like, there's nothing to that really, I think. And you're right. Good one.
We must talk about this one. Maybe we can say this is the last one. I have a few others, but maybe this is because I think this is the most important one, since this is the Kosher Wine Podcast, to talk about
Hmm.
mevushal wine. And the myth is that
Oh,
mevushal wine is automatically inferior,
so good. Or that it can't age. I would
or that
put
it
that's
can't
that's
age.
I can't believe we didn't. It's good you got that in. And by the way, I really should have thought more about like more specifically kosher things, but I'm so happy you did that. And we know and a lot of people that drink wine know it's very much not true. There are wineries that I think that struggle with mevushal when they are maybe starting it out, but there's also masters of it. And like Herzog has proven,
Yeah,
Hagafen has proven that Hagafen is 100% mevushal. The winery is mevushal. Um, and he's proven that not only can the quality be the same, it may be better, I want to say, but not only that, but like the aging ability, the age ability, if you want to say that, is like, how many Herzog, like old 20-year-old Herzogs have you had? And I'm giving away our future episode of what bottles can age. That would be a perfect one. Some of these Herzog mevushal bottles age beautifully.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it doesn't mean anything. And I think there are, not I think, but what I was gonna say is I think we've mentioned it on a previous podcast, but there are French winemakers who are starting to pasteurize wine in a mevushal process for not at all for that reason, nothing to do with kosher, but because of kind of ironing out flaws. So it could be there would be some winemakers that would say the opposite. Not only does it not hurt the quality, it's improving the quality.
I would think so, especially because technology has improved enormously. And I think that's part of it. I think when you talk about mevushal, you're probably talking about 20, 30 years ago, and maybe that could have been true then. But today, definitely not true.
Right. Well, Baruch Hashem for Rav Moshe's psak of where he didn't have to be. You're not boiling in a cauldron. A lot of people don't realize what it really means, and it's a flash pasteurization, and it's not such a super high temperature. And I know there's like different shitas and stuff like that. We're not going to get into that. But the point is that it's not
Right.
ultimately like you're not boiling in a big vat. That's not what's happening. It's a quick pasteurization. And like I said, there are the winemakers that not only do it well, but excel and probably are putting out better wine than if they weren't doing it.
But I would even go so further. Even let's say Eda Haredis or Zachbach, which are these very, very
Yeah,
textures that people really respect, and they pasteurize by 89 degrees Celsius, which is pretty
right.
hot.
Pretty hot.
Even that, so I've had wines that are under those hachsherim that are totally fine.
Right. Right. So yeah, that's a good one though. I love that one. It's a great one to finish on. And I can't believe it. I didn't think of that one either. But that's why I have you.
That was a fun challenge. I think we need to do these
Yeah.
challenges. And to you, if you're still here listening with us, send us
Yeah.
some of your myths, and
Yeah.
we will go through them on the next episode.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to get a collection of other people's myths online, and yeah, we should definitely bring them up. It's that was a fun one. It
That
was a
was
fun
great.
one. And I know I would say like I gotta let's keep it tight, but we just we gotta do it more often. It's my fault. That's all I can say. It's my fault.
This
But
it's so good to see you.
it's always great. It's great being with you, and it's great to see you. And you look better and better every time I see you. That's all I can say. Maybe that's the glass of wine I had talking.
It's a good wine. I'm so happy that we're back together. And please, we
Yeah.
want to
Well,
hear your comments. I check kosherwinepodcast@gmail.com. I check it every day. Send us your comments, send us your myths, kosherwinepodcast@gmail.com. And we will, if you want us, you can say my name. We'll even say your name because we love to name drop.
we do like to name drop. All right. Well, great seeing you. And let's try to get one in before Yantif. Maybe or I do want to do that, like the age one. I love that one. The ageability, choosing a list of what we think are great ageability ones. But Rosh picks, something like that. We'll do another one soon. Great to see you.
See you on the other side.
Great. Bye.
Bye.